Before regular meeting, city council, please call.
Mayor Schwartz. Member Karen.
Here.
Member Cheney Huggett. Member Gates.
Here.
Member Traver.
Here.
Member Underhill. And Member Wolfersberger.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. That brings us to item number 5, approval of agenda. We'll have public comment on agenda items. Persons addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 3 minutes. Comments shall address agenda item topics. Public hearings items will be addressed during the public hearing portion, item 10 of the meeting agenda. Non-agenda items will be addressed during the public comment, non-agenda items, item 14 portion of the meeting agenda. Under 7, we have our consent agenda for our work session, February 20, 2024, our regular session, February 20, 2024. Item B, our city bills totaling $2,070,122.31. Then we have under C, Reuben Race Special Event. D, Oaklawn Color Classic 5K and Fun Run Special Event. And item E, Market on Main Street Special Event. It brings us down to item 10, public hearing and subsequent council action. Under A, we have our fire code ordinance amendment. Under B, our fire protection and emergency services cost recovery, fire inspection and ordinance amendment. Followed by item 12A, planning documents, proposals, master plan, non-motorized plan, parks and recreation plan, economic development and marketing plan. Item B, sign ordinance review. Item C, Transportation Authority of the Calhoun County Consultant Funding Request. Item D, replacement of electric department SCADA system. Item E, proposed 5-year electric rate plan. No appointments or elections. Item 14, public comment on non-agenda items. Person addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 2 minutes. Comments shall be addressed in non-agenda item topics. Public hearing items will be addressed during the public hearing portion, which was item 10 of the meeting agenda. Agenda items shall be addressed during the public comment agenda items. Item 6, portions of meeting agenda, followed by 15, council and manager communications and adjournment. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor. Support.
Motion by Council Member Wolfersberger, supported by Council Member Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to item 6, public comment on agenda items. Person addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 3 minutes. Comments shall address agenda item topics. Public hearing items should be addressed during the public hearing portion under item 10 of our meeting agenda. Non-agenda items will be addressed during the public comment non-agenda items under item 14 portion of the meeting agenda. Anybody wishing to speak on agenda items? Yes, sir.
Information that I'd like to give to each of the council members. All right, what I just showed you was a presentment giving conspicuous notice to the Barry Wayne Adams, 622 Green Street. You know that. Fact sheet from the website put out by the Michigan Municipal League concerning ethics and misconduct in office. And it deals with remedies available to the citizen for the common law offense of misconduct in office. You'll find out. Well, yes, and I'm dealing with the way you do your business. Well, but you can't even limit that. You can't limit that, sir. And, all right, yes, so let me continue. You've already taken away my time. So, since the way you do business in each and every agenda, like even going back to the last minutes, again, Barry W. Adams of 622 gave a public comment. See, that's not even doing your job. That's misfeasance of office, but there are two other categories: malfeasance of office, nonfeasance of office. They all pertain to the offense of misconduct in office, which is remedied criminally by MCL 750.505. Now, everything that you guys have been doing along, especially with the mega site, but even the way you guys do stuff today, even when you're trying to abridge my First Amendment right, my Article 1, Section 5 to the Michigan Constitution, no law. Do you know what no law means? So since you have a pattern and practice of engaging in misconduct in office, particularly when it happens with mega site issues, because even though it's being dealt with by extraordinary writ by the committee, there are still criminal remedies because there are things that have happened criminally, including the failure of the council to follow the Joint Planning Commission recommendation, which they were required to do by law, and numerous other things that I will go into detail in the next thing. But opportunity to cure, you have till the end of next meeting to positively act to remedy what you've done. Specifically, get rid of that zoning and heavy industrial, keep this agriculture like it was promised to be. Breach of contract right there, that's criminal. And if you don't do that, then I will bring these specific issues, it's in the public record, I will bring them to the Michigan State Police. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Our consent agenda under item A, city council minutes for the work session on February 20th, 2024. Approval of our regular session, February 20th, 2024. We have city bills purchases on 2/16/2024 in the amount of $123,013.55. We have purchases on 2/23/2024 in the amount of $1,687,406.87. We have purchases on 3/5/2024 in the amount of $259,691.95 for a total of $2,070,000 and $2,070,112.31. We have the Reuben Ray special event, which will take place on April 20th, 2024. We have the Oaklawn Color Classic 5K Fun Run, a special event, which will take place on June 8th, 2024. We have our Market on the Main special event, which will be on July 20th, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, may I just ask a question?
Yes.
I noticed that the fees for the Oaklawn Color Classic were pretty high. I'm trying to remember, is that the same as it was last year? And if so, is Oaklawn aware?
Yes, so part of the fee up to that dollar amount is exempt. And depending on how many volunteers, that can always come down. I believe they are aware of the current charges, yes?
Yeah, the special events committee, I'm part of the special events committee. We met with the Oaklawn group and again, what they presented to us on there. We gotta go with what may be needed from city staff, depending on how much of the volunteers we get as we go down. So we don't want project low and then come out and be more than that. We gotta recover costs. And we're looking at some of that stuff too, you know, especially I've talked with the city manager about the rate I charge for vehicles, mainly for emergency response and not is a special event response. So that may be reduced also. We're looking at that. So, but we wanted to give that amount just in case that that's the high be and we'll cover the cost if needed. So that's what we do for all the special events though.
But yeah, you're correct, Jake. It is much higher than it was last year. Being $4,500 before the 500, I think it was ended up being like 4,100 was the fee. So
I appreciate that we're recovering costs for events like that. I hope it doesn't have a chilling effect on events like that. So I appreciate staff working with the event coordinators to make sure we can still have events like that while also, you know, being fiscally responsible. So thank you.
Thank you. No further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
support.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wolfersberger, supported by Councilmember Traver. Please call the roll.
Member Karen. Member Cheney Huggett.
Yes.
Member Gates.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Member Underhill.
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger.
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you. That brings us to item 10, public hearing and subsequent council action. Persons addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 3 minutes per the public hearing. Under item A, we have our fire code ordinance amendment. Is that gonna be Chief? You want to give us a breakdown?
Your Honor, Council, again, we brought this up beginning of last month to introduce it. What we want to do in the fire service is switch to mainly going off with the International Fire Code. Adopting that book as our primary, of course, the International Fire Code more aligns with our building code section, which most of your construction people refer to, both the IBC and IFC. The IFC does still reference a lot of NFPA on there with a reference to that. So we're never going to get totally away from the NFPA, but this is our first line of book that we go to is IFC. It just kind of lays out how we're going to do our inspection, update our ordinance and update it to the newest 2021 edition.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak, have 3 minutes to do so in reference to fire ordinance amendment. Yes, sir.
Barry Wayne Adams again, 622 West Green again. Didn't think I'd be really speaking on this issue, but people are getting worried about a phenomenon called globalism. And it seems that there are a lot of people out there who still feel a strong attachment to the differentiating principles of Americanism that are giving warning of the tendency, which we're seeing right here, to want to tie into internationally codified regulations. That is, you know, from a component aspect, that is a handing away of a certain aspect of local sovereignty over the issues. Now, I don't know why an international body needs to tell local firefighters how to put out a fire. You know, the techniques are pretty well settled and it doesn't require some special supranational body to show us poor little individuals what is right and how to put out a fire. So, you know, this is how this globalism effort is moving in, you know, you break the body apart into components and then attack each component from its own legalistic point of view. And the same thing's happening with the mega site. You know, this is a slick way of allowing China to get its foot in the door. And through its proxy Ford, who, you know, acting as a puppet for this globalist agenda. And it's very sorry to see, you know, many people in town are mad about this. And it's sad to see that you people are just, you know, not giving any kind of critical pushback to any of this stuff. And it makes people in town wonder who's really pulling the strings. Because just as we see in the minutes, you know, our input is irrelevant, you know, just the fact that we come down here and get our name in the minutes again. You know, people in town know that it's futile to try to deal with you people. So there are other things happening as a result of that meeting last Saturday, but we will also use other remedies.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on fire code ordinance amendment? Seeing none, I'll close public hearing. Council, questions, follow-up?
No, I think Chief has presented this to us very thoroughly. I don't have any questions.
That being said, take a recommendation to enact ordinance 2024-01, an ordinance to amend the City of Marshall Code of Ordinances pursuant to the authorization set forth in Section 3K of the Michigan Home Rule Cities Act, Michigan Compiled Laws 117.3, adopts the International Fire Code 2021 edition published by the International Code Council as a fire code for the City of Marshall, and direct the clerk to publish the ordinance in full.
So moved.
I have a motion by Council Member Gates, supported by Council Member Underhill. A roll call, please.
Member Cheney Huggett,
Yes.
Member Gates,
Yes.
Member Traver,
Yes.
Member Underhill,
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz,
Yes,
Member Karen.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
thank you. That brings us to item 10B. Public hearing and subsequent council action. Persons addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 3 minutes per the public hearing. Item B is fire inspection and emergency services cost recovery, fire inspections and ordinance amendment. Chief?
Yes, Your Honor and Council, again, this kind of goes hand in hand with bringing us up to the modern part of the fire service. Again, we need a cost recovery ordinance. Again, we're tax-based, we understand that, but if we have a major, like happened down in Pennsylvania or Ohio, derailment of the train, it's gonna be a lengthy emergency response. We have a way of recovering those type of costs. Again, kind of this kind of goes along with how we come up with what we charge for special events and what we're gonna charge to do a business inspection when it's required. So this sets the groundwork for that, what we charge, and that's put into our spreadsheet that we have for all costs for the departments.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing for the fire protection emergency service cost recovery, fire inspections and ordinance amendment. Anyone wishing to speak, so they have 3 minutes to do so. Yes, sir.
One more time, Barry Wayne Adams, 622 West Green Street. It looks like we're tooling up for and planning to have more fire-related catastrophes. And I guess, you know, they're illegally putting in a battery processing plant over on the other side of 69 there. That's to be expected. And of course, that's probably why Maida, who is one of the real string pullers in what's been going on, is pushing for that other larger fire station. But doesn't matter how big a fire station you make, you know, once lithium is exposed to oxygen, that's it. You know, all you're doing by, you know, getting more firefighters and having more equipment and a bigger building to put it in is you're just gonna have a bigger audience while you watch lithium go up, leaving, you know, the toxic fumes, and, you know, we're right downwind of the prevailing westerlies from that place. So instead of using government as a whack-a-mole game against potential catastrophes that may arise as a result of government decision-making, instead take a more prophylactic view towards preservation of the public health and safety, and not even engage in these very perilous and risky ventures. There is so much potential of negative reaction, and we're already seeing that down in Detroit. They're having lithium fires all over the place. You know, go to YouTube, spend an hour or so watching all the different EV cars going up. You know, doesn't matter how many regulations you make or how much you try to fund it. When oxygen hits lithium, that's it. Nothing you can do. 4,900 degrees. You know, people have already died in their cars, you know, going up at that temperature. You know, when you go to sleep tonight, think about what kind of a demise that might have been. And it doesn't even have to happen. You know, remedy this thing. Go back to agricultural, you made a mistake. They can pull out anything they put in, and there'll be a lot more tranquility in the town. But until then, all you're gonna get is, you know, all this hostility and opprobrium.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on fire protection and emergency services, cost recovery, fire inspections, and ordinance amendment? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Council members, discussion or questions?
Your Honor, I'd just like to express to the chief, you know, our thanks. I know this has been something you've been working on for a long time. I know you've come to us, like multiple times with this, and it's great to see it finally in fruition. So thanks much.
I concur and thank you. Any other questions or discussion? With that, I'll take a motion to enact ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance to amend the City of Marshall Code of Ordinances pursuant to the authorization set forth in section 3K of the Michigan Home Rules Act, Michigan Compiled Laws 117.3, Public Act 33 of 1951, Michigan Compiled Laws 41.806A, Michigan Compiled Laws 41.8102, subsection A, to delete emergency fire department services charges, to establish fire protection and emergency services cost recovery for fire inspections, and to amend City Code Section 95-15 to repeal any ordinance inconsistent therewith and direct the clerk to publish the ordinance in full.
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wolfersberger, supported by Councilmember Cheney Huggett. Roll call, please.
Member Gates,
Yes.
Member Traver,
Yes.
Member Underhill,
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Karen, Member Cheney Huggett.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you. That brings us to items 12A, planning documents, proposals, master plan, non-motorized plan, parks and recreations plan, economic development and marketing plan. Eric, thank you.
Even Mr. Mayor, Council.
That is a mouthful of planning documents for 2024. Many of them are required as part of our participation in the Redevelopment Ready Communities Program. We have been certified. I think we were the 7th or 8th community to be certified. And as time has gone on now, it's time for recertification. So we're going through those items, and there have been changes in the program since its establishment that are requiring us to tweak certain other documents. One of the things we're required to do is to stay up on our master plan. That's also required as part of the Planning Enabling Act, the state of Michigan. We have to look at it every 5 years. It was adopted in 15. In 20, we reviewed it and said, yep, still a legitimate plan, still, good for the city of Marshall. Obviously, since 2020, we've had some changes on land use and economic development. So, and we have a new city manager, we have a new mayor. We were looking at that time to transition to a new master plan, is to take this opportunity to work with the community to put in place our vision for the next 20 years. Obviously, this is a living document. We continue to look at this. So that's the reason you see the master plan in front of you. It's also the reason you see the economic development and marketing plans, as those are part of the RRC program, and we're required to have one in place. We adopted them in 16. They're outdated. So that is something we want to tackle at the same time. As one of the goals in our master plan, we were also looking at the non-motorized plan, really looking at how we develop sidewalk systems, how we develop trails. That's been a priority for the community since the 15, I think even preceding the 15 master plan. And we felt as staff, it was a priority that we needed to put in place that vision in a separate document. And I believe that was included in your 24 work plan that you approved earlier this year, or late last year, sorry. And then we are also due for our Parks and Recreation plan. Parks and Recreation plan is required to be adopted every 5 years to remain eligible for DNR funds. As we have needs on the trail system, the Riverwalk, we're working on Eaton Park. It's imperative that we make sure that we're up to date on our Parks and Recreation plan. We put out 2 RFPs. For these, we split them up on what I thought was reasonable. Economic development, marketing really go hand in hand, and the other ones kind of go hand in hand. For the first master plan, non-motorized and Parks and Recreation plan, we received 2 proposals. We sent it out to 7 different companies directly. And what we got back was just capacity. A lot of them are just too busy right now. Even Giffords and Webster, who did ours in 15, I was shocked they didn't put in. They said they wanted to, they just couldn't commit to getting it done by the end of the year. So, and we are required to get it done by the end of the year, first quarter of 25. So it just didn't work for them. Another company said the same thing. A few companies said, hey, thanks for sending it, and never heard from them again. So we have 2 very different plans, Progressive AE and McKenna Associates. Staff interviewed them, and we are recommending on that one that we award the bid to Progressive AE. I really like both companies. I've worked with McKenna and Progressive both in the past. McKenna, who's doing the building inspection for the Blue Oval project, really put their best foot forward, and they gave us a hell of a plan. We just cannot comfortably come to a way where we could scale down their plan and meet the proposal that Progressive put in place, which will still do everything we need done as part of the process. We had 6 companies reply to the economic development and marketing plan proposals. As you can see, wide ranging again. Progressive AE was the low bid there as well. They're looking at really an economies of scale approach on here. They can do a lot of the public engagement. One plan, it's a lot of the same issues. What do you want to see in your community? We can talk about the different issues with economic development, parks, etc. They've also offered a 6% savings if we award them both, as they are low and the most responsive. To staff, it was a no-brainer to recommend awarding both plans to Progressive AE, who has worked at Marshall over the past couple of years.
Thank you. Council, questions?
I have a question, just sort of to play devil's advocate, given the cost of this, it's theoretically you could hire an employee for a year for that cost. What's the rationale for outsourcing this? I mean, I can see that they're only done every few years. Is it because they have this specialized expertise to kind of check these boxes?
Yeah, I mean, this is what They are planners. This is what they do for a living. They bring not just one employee, they bring a team of employees. They bring experts when it comes to non-motor or for transportation as well. Marguerite will be involved in this, but I will tell you Marguerite's plate is a little full right now. So if we said, hey, I need you to weigh in on this, she'll give it some time, but she's not gonna be able to spend a lot of time on helping develop plans. So I don't think we would hire just one staff. We'd be hiring multiple staffs for a year to do this work.
Okay, thank you.
Could you speak to what their process will be for gathering input?
Yes, there are multiple public engagement scenarios. There will be online surveys. There will be a couple of meetings in person. We are still fleshing out the exact approach. They want to be here in Marshall. I mean, they want to get to know the community. They'll be reaching out to stakeholders as well. They're committed to making sure we get widespread public engagement on this project. And that's something that staff was very clear on, is we wanted to see that from multiple means. If you can't make a meeting, we still want you to be able to participate and give that feedback.
Will they also engage? You mentioned Marguerite will be involved. Will the other directors be involved or?
Yes.
On that?
Yeah, there's a city leadership team. Obviously our city manager will be heading up that with myself, Kevin, from an electric standpoint, Marguerite, fire and police will have their input as well. I mean, everyone will have their input within the city departments where it impacts the land use decisions. And obviously planning commission plays a big role in this too. This is one of their main charges for the year.
This is the same firm that worked on the Green Street activation zone, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Would there be any collaboration with MEDA on the economic development plan?
Yeah, sorry, that's 1% different. Jim will be part of the leadership team as well, providing that input. Obviously, we reached out to MEDA for some assistance in funding the process. So MEDA board members will get to see the proposal. They'll have input. It's a stakeholder. They're one of many stakeholders in the community. And we will be reaching out to as many people as we can on that.
I also think that it might be a good opportunity to work with Progressive AE if they are selected. You know, that area, that buffer zone out at the major site, that's going to be used along the Kalamazoo River, get their input on that as well.
Yeah, I think that really goes hand in. I mean, it's going to be a major part of the Parks and Recreation Plan and other aspects of the master plan.
Yeah, but and to include that, that would be excellent. Any other questions, comments?
I would just comment, I hope that too, we can maybe schedule a work session with city council as well, somewhere in the process. Sometimes we get things when they're pretty baked, which is great, but I think it'd be nice to maybe involve us a little earlier in some of these plans.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Jacob. One of the things we were looking at doing is possibly having a joint meeting with council and the planning commission. Really, so planning commission members can hear your feedback as they move through their process. We have a lot of new members on planning commission, so that would also be a good time for everyone to have that discussion. It's something that Derek and I talked about, and we'll talk about the Progressive AE as well. So with the request is, like as I said, we're recommending awarding Progressive, but also to add in the budget amendment to make that possible.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to accept the proposal from Progressive AE for the completion of the new master plan, non-motorized plan, Parks and Recreation Plan, Economic Development Plan, and marketing plans in the amount of $149,749, and authorize the city manager and city clerk to sign the necessary documents subject to review and approval by form by the city attorney.
So moved.
Support.
Jacob, was that you? Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Karen, supported by Councilmember Gates. Roll call, please.
Member Traver,
Yes.
Member Underhill,
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Member Cheney Huggett. Yes. Member Gates.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you. That brings us to item 12B, signed ordinance review. Eric?
In a recent zoning board of appeals meeting, we had a request to allow for a larger LED sign from the new Consumers Credit Union that's coming in at the old Pizza Hut site. Our current sign ordinance is a little restrictive, in my opinion. or sorry, a lot restrictive in my opinion on the message board signs. Now there are very appropriate places where we are restrictive on that. We don't allow them at all in residential zoning districts. Very normal. But in a high-speed commercial corridor, our signs that we're allowing are pretty small. That got into, over the past few years, we've had other issues with projecting signs in the downtown. And there's been some decisions at the Supreme Court level that have talked about off-premise signs, regulating of that. So it's been a few years since we've looked at this. I have requested a proposal from Progressive because they're going to be here already to help us work through this process. My goal is not to spend this much, but it is to get it done because I know the Consumers Credit Union folks are looking strongly at it. And to go back to the ZBA was not comfortable in providing a variance. And I think Scott can definitely add into this as a one-off. If we said, hey, you can have a 50 square foot sign there, but then we come back and we adopt a standard that's only at 40. We didn't want to have one location. So we wanted to take a holistic approach and really look through this issue. It's needed. Normally we would do this much later down the road, multiple years after the master plan. We would do this part of our zoning ordinance review and updating. I don't think we can wait for that. We have other development occurring on that corridor. We're gonna have more requests. I know we have another bank that will be requesting it. I had St. Mary's here on Green Street contact me and request an LED sign. Unfortunately, there are 3 that's not allowed. But that's another issue that we could talk about in other communities. They've looked at those institutional uses and allowing that or not. So I think it's just time that we make sure it is where we want it as a community. And as mentioned, we have brought in much more revenue than we anticipated this year. It's part of our contract. So we're requesting to use part of that.
Appreciate you bringing this up. I feel like it is something that needs to be addressed and it's a little bit overdue. Just from a standpoint of, different signs downtown that I noticed that, potentially started off to be a temporary sign and are still there. And I think we need to kind of get our plan really dialed in so we can then start enforcing some of those to make sure that we're meeting the standards of our community. So thank you.
As Eric said, when it came to the ZBA, we were very concerned about setting a de facto standard, without having gone through a process to identify what was right for the city. So I did have one question for you, Eric. Obviously, the dates in here are mostly past due. So do we have a new time frame for this?
Yeah. We'll be starting March 13th. If you approve, we'll be starting next Wednesday with the first planning commission meeting, and I'll have those dates updated before we sign the contract.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, this sign ordinance review will go beyond just the LED signs, correct?
That is correct.
It's a full signage.
It'll be a
Okay.
comprehensive review.
Yeah, and I would piggyback on what Joe said, that we do need a stronger ordinance or policy for, I think, downtown signage. That a lot of those temporary signs that go up, they end up being permanent, and I think it does kind of negatively impact our downtown.
And I think we need a close look at the different, we look at it as a zoning district right now, but I think there are signs that are more appropriate for certain areas of town rather than, downtown. So I think that's something we need to closely look at and make sure we're up to modern standards as well.
And the only other thing I want to bring up is the brightness of the signs.
Yep.
Nighttime versus daytime, the amount of information that might be switching.
Yep.
That'll all be taken into consideration.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's not a distraction.
Yep.
All right.
When I adopted it, updated a sign ordinance in a different community, we put all those standards in. So I think that's something we would definitely need to look at. And once again, what's appropriate for West Michigan Avenue may not be appropriate for South Kalamazoo. So it's something we can closely look at.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the sign review project with Progressive AE for the amount of $11,000 and authorize the city manager and city clerk to sign the necessary documents.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Wolfersberger, supported by Councilmember Karen. Roll call vote, please.
Member Underhill,
Yes.
member Wolfersberger.
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
member Karen,
Yes.
member Cheney Huggett,
Yes.
member Gates,
Yes.
and member Traver.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for the support of the master plan. I look forward, this is going to be a big year for Marshall, so there's a lot of work that's coming. Thank you.
That brings us to item 12C, Transportation Authority of the Calhoun County Consultant Funding Request. City Manager.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the City Council. The item tonight before you is 12C. As City Council is aware, the City of Marshall has opted into the Calhoun County Transit Authority. As part of that, steering committee met in the end of January or February. And as part of their meeting, they quickly determined that they really need to bring a consultant in to help stand up the potential transit authority. So they did solicit the communities and said, hey, would you be willing to help support that endeavor with basically a contribution? And our contribution, if approved by City Council, would be $25,000. What they would be looking to do is hire a consultant that specializes in transit and hire them for 18 months really to develop what that authority would look like as far as rules, regulations, procedures, all of that. They really need to bring in a specialist to assist with that. So the request is for $25,000. We would fund that through our DART fund. We do have those revenues available for that. And again, that's my request tonight.
Thank you. Questions?
This just doesn't come as a surprise. I mean, it's been kind of part of the plan all along that, you know, once this was created, we would most likely need a consultant to determine the best, you know, route. So I appreciate that we're just on track with that and hopefully coming to a bigger, better solution for the county versus just what we're doing here in Marshall.
I will point out too, City of Battle Creek's funding 60%, Calhoun County's 20%. We're 10%, and then City of Albion's 5%, and City of Springfield's 5%. So that's kind of how the breakdown is.
So I'm stuck though. I don't disagree with Mr. Karen. But I am stuck though on, I feel like it was conveyed pretty clearly that this wasn't, you know, that they were going to determine their own funding, that it wasn't going to cost us anything till they determined if they actually had funding.
To that point, I think they recognize that in order for them even to put together or try to develop a millage on what it would cost to operate this, they can again, try to come up with some ideas, but really to put pencil to paper, you really need to bring a consultant in to help guide that. Otherwise, you have a group of volunteers working with, you know, some transit professionals out of the City of Battle Creek trying to develop it. But at the end of the day, they have their day job, right? They're running the Battle Creek Transit Authority. So they really felt that they got to bring a consultant in. And because there's no millage for this transit authority, there is no revenue source other than looking to the communities that want to participate in the hopes that they will contribute and get this thing off the ground.
Might also add that $25,000, which is already in the budget to cover this, is not added expenses above and beyond for a transfer of funds. For us to continue to do what we're doing and develop a plan with our own DART system, I think this is money well spent in lieu of. But I do agree with your original comment, how it started out. But if we have to pivot, it's that money being spent now to develop a robust plan or us a more centralized plan. I think this is money well spent, just my thought. So any other discussion?
Yeah, just one question. Wasn't there at one point, and maybe it's gone now, wasn't there state funding that was available that was to spur these developments of these types of programs at one point? And maybe it's disappeared now, but that was my understanding originally, is that there was state funding available too.
What, there was funding available for the Battle Creek BC Go program that was extended. We are utilizing actually some of that funding for our own Dial-A-Ride right now. So the software, so maybe you're including both of those, but essentially that's maybe what you're thinking of. But for this, when they're up and running, they will be eligible for state and federal funding, just like we are. But again, there's nothing available now. But I suspect maybe that's what you're thinking of. Battle Creek Transit was able to leverage some specific grants to help us start using that BC Go software to help really to integrate that technology into our dial-a-ride system as a kind of a stopgap measure.
What's plan B if any of these communities decide not to take part in this piece of funding?
Well, ultimately, then I guess they could look back to us. They can either adjust the contract, right? Say, listen, this is the pot of money you have. You're just gonna have to make it work. Obviously, they could come back to the communities that are participating. But my understanding is they have strong commitments from all the communities as far as committing to this. They know this is their one shot, honestly, to bring in a consultant to try to make this work. So.
Thank you.
I guess that would be something I'd want to convey here is this is not a piggy bank, you know. We're, you know, when they need money for marketing for their, you know, millage proposal or whatever, that they're gonna have to figure that out.
Yes, we would not be, I would not recommend that we participate in anything along those lines. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll take a motion to approve $25,000 allocation and expenditure from the DART Fund 588 for the proposed of contracting with a specialized transit consultant to assist with the development of the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County and authorize the city manager and city clerk to sign the necessary documents.
Support.
A motion by Councilmember Gates, supported by Councilmember Karen. Roll call vote, please.
Member Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Member Cheney Huggett,
No.
Member Gates,
Yes.
Member Traver,
Yes.
Member Underhill.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you. That brings us to item 12D, replacement of electric department SCADA system. Kevin?
Good evening. Got a couple of items for your consideration this evening. The first is the replacement of the electric department SCADA system. And this is a computerized system located in the power plant control room. It provides remotely 24 hours a day monitoring and control and recording of data for our electric system functions, whether that's generation, substations, or distribution. And the system that we currently have is 20+ years old. It has limited functionality. We can't get updates to it anymore through Surveillant. And it has demonstrated some issues with latent commands. You command a breaker to close and it'll close, but you're just not quite sure when. So that can create some safety issues for us. So we budgeted some money in the capital budget this year to replace the SCADA system. Last fall, we solicited bids for this system. We got 6 of vendors or bidders that submitted. 3 of those we didn't believe conformed to the bid requirements for various reasons. Some of them didn't include any installation labor. That was left up to us to take care of. And 3 did. And so of the 3 conforming bids, the lowest of those is EN Specialty Services of Warrenville, Illinois. But they have an office down in Auburn, Indiana that handles this stuff for our area. So they are very close, and they were with the firm Spectrum Engineering, which we've used in the past. Through acquisition, they're now Entrust Solutions. So a very reputable firm. So our recommendation is to move forward with awarding the bid to EN Specialty Services in the bid amount of $450,640.
What was the amount that you budgeted for this? single capital project?
$250,000.
Okay.
And we budgeted that amount based on what we got a proposal from UIS. But if you look at what they bid, it was more than $400,000 more than that.
Right.
And we asked them about that, but they've never been able to give us a reasonable answer for why their bid was so much higher than the quote they gave us a year ago.
I won't ask you to disclose anything in public forum, but I would like to ensure though that as part of updating the system, we're also updating our security standards, complex passwords, multi-factor authentication,
Sure,
data encryption,
absolutely.
make sure that all that's being
The
covered
the
here.
biggest protection we have is that this does not have a public connection.
Excellent.
It's all on our city-owned fiber. And the only time that we've had to go out there is to get updates. But we're gonna try to figure out if there's a way for us to do those through hard means
Okay.
to avoid doing that. So we don't have some of those dangers that you see with other types of public infrastructure like that.
Yeah, this system in particular obviously is
Mhm.
target rich.
Right. Absolutely. It's a great question.
With that, I'll take a motion to award the SCADA system replacement project bid to EN Specialty Services out of Warrenville, Illinois, in the amount of $450,640, and authorize the city manager and city clerk to sign the necessary agreements.
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wolfersberger, supported by Councilmember Karen. Roll call vote, please.
Member Karen.
Yes.
Annie Hugget.
Yes.
Member Gates.
Yes.
Member Traver.
Yes.
Member Underhill.
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger.
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
That brings us to item 12E, proposed 5-year electric plan. Kevin.
Yes, we've had some discussion about this plan the last two council work sessions. I think the good news for the community is that based on our projections of revenue requirements and revenues under our current rates, we don't anticipate needing a rate adjustment for the next 5 years. But what we have discovered through the cost of service analysis, which looks at the cost of providing electric service to the various rate classes, including residential, commercial, and industrial, is that some of those classes were paying more than their fair share, while others were being subsidized by other rate classifications. So we've come up with a plan to make what I believe are very modest adjustments to those rates over the 5-year plan to get us closer to the cost of providing service in each of those rate classifications. So for example, for a residential customer in the first phase of this 5-year plan, the customer charge would increase $1.75 per month. And then each year after that would increase another $1.50 per month. So.
Thank you.
And we're not asking for any action on this tonight. We wanted to make sure that we could share it with you and share it with the public,
And this information is on your website as well? On your plan?
that I can't say.
It is part of the agenda packets under the
So,
works page,
yep.
but again, we could carve it out and put it on the electric utility page too. I just don't know how many people actually go there for the, that kind of information, but.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you then.
Before you head out, Kevin, I was gonna save this for council communications, but just if you could express a thank you to your staff, the response on what night was it? And the tornado obviously took out electricity to a large part of the north side of the city, and
Yeah.
the response in the middle of the night, in storm situation, that's really appreciated.
Yeah, it was on ITC's transmission line serving the Brewer substation, but our power plant and distribution staff came in and were able to switch those circuits to other substations and return those customers to service, I think, in about 45 minutes. So it's pretty quick.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 14, public comment on non-agenda items. Persons addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 2 minutes on non-agenda items. Anybody wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
Barry Wayne Adams, 622 West Green Street. My abridged First Amendment right that of only 2 minutes to speak is just one of the many indicia of this concept of misconduct in office. And so are there indicators of criminal intent throughout this whole process of getting the mega site going? Well, you know, start from the top down. The whole project is in violation of Article 9, Section 18 of the Michigan Constitution, which prohibits public funds for the use of private enterprise. In fact, Scott versus City of Grand Rapids, as I've told you before, contracts involving use of public money to further private enterprise are void. There's also the issue of all the violations of Article 4, Section 10 of the Michigan Constitution, the conflicts of interest that have been involved, the influencers and interlocking directors that have been involved in the string pulling in all this process. One of the most overt indicators of the mens rea is the deliberate effort to rezone the megasite area as heavy industrial in violation of the lawful requirement to follow the recommendation of the Joint Planning Commission. The use of the front organizations, MEDEC and MEDA, to funnel, to try to get around that Article 9, Section 18. You know, anybody who's watched the Godfather movie can see what's been going on here. So think it over.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Martin Erskine, 8302 Robbins Lane, Marshall Fire Chief. First of all, I'd like to thank Attorney Vervore and his staff for adopting those ordinances. Those are great ordinances. Matter of fact, I know there's other communities wanting to piggyback on the ordinance that we just adopted for their communities as well. So thank you for supporting that. Second thing, so the community knows, Air Care would be stopping operations as of April 19th. So we won't have never see helicopter will be either Ann Arbor or Grand Rapids. Borges and Bronson decided not to fund them anymore. Also, pretty significant achievement last month in the fire department. Vic Knobs celebrated 50 years of service on the Marshall Fire Department. Vic still responds with us, still with the air pack on, ready to go inside, lead younger guys in to fight fire, point it out, and tell him there's other things you do, but that's what he prefers to do. We're gonna have a little open house for him on Saturday, March 16th from 1 to 3 at the fire station. If you know Vic at all, he didn't want a bunch of pomp and circumstances march him up here or any of that stuff, but you know, it'd be nice if all you could show up. We'll have a cake and some coffee and stuff. And I did purchase a plaque for him personally, and then also purchase a plaque, and we're gonna name our training room after him. That man spent 50 years of countless hours of training. Again, we'll call it the Vic Knobs, training room there with that plaque up there in his picture. So he's never forgotten, because 50 years of service as a part-paid firefighter is almost unheard of. It's a pretty significant thing. Again, I want to do a little publicity with him is up. I put Captain Ash in charge of it to check with Vic and his wife to see what they wanted this list to look like. So I wanted it to be him. So just wanted you to know that you guys are all invited, and he's invited over there. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Anybody else wishing to speak? None. That moves us to council and manager communications. Councilmember Gates,
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Underhill, Councilmember Karen.
Just a quick update on the Calhoun County Consolidated Dispatch Authority Board meeting. We met on the 13th of February. It was a light agenda. We approved an administrative services agreement with the county, which is something that is normally done every year.
Yep.
And we also approved an agreement with the Battle Creek Fire Department to bring their radios into our system to make sure that they can stay updated and be on the right channels with ours. So
Good.
that was about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Traver,
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Wolfersberger.
So I do. I had the pleasure of going on the Marshall historical tour this weekend of the Adam Crossway affair. Got to ride on the trolley for the first time. That was a nice thing. But while on the excellent tour, it came up that Marshall is coming up on its bicentennial in 2030. And it sounds like that's possibly on the radar of the Historical Society, but I was a little curious if it's on anybody else's radar. I'm just thinking, as they pointed out, we got a fountain for our centennial, and so they're wondering what we're gonna do for the bicentennial. I didn't have an answer, so.
Our goal is to keep the fountain running.
So, no, I just thought that was, I didn't realize it was coming up. I mean, I know it's, 6 more years, but it's, I'm sure that'll fly by. So, yeah, thought I would make sure I wasn't the only one that knew about that.
Just add another tier to the mayor's fountain. Councilman, yeah.
The airport board met today and they are working on their 2024 activity schedule at this time. They have, the ground school currently has 50 students and they are looking to expand that and get some more planes in and some more instructors and they've got some great activities that they're working on getting planned and I'm really excited for them. Thank you.
I'll just share quickly that we had 5 guests come in this weekend using our local airport to explore the community. And not only did they mention how nice the terminal building was, but just what a great spot it is to come to Marshall. And so it's nice to see the improvements there being appreciated and all that they're doing. So thank you.
Good. City manager.
A couple items. One, as city council's aware, we received a lighting complaint out at the Blue Oval / major campus location. We're finalizing that report. Once that's 100% complete, we will post that on the website, the Blue Oval page, just so that's out there for the public to review. The Hughes Street development, last meeting, I believe we had a resident that was concerned about an open house that was going to be held by the developer during spring break. Just as a follow-up to that, the developer is not ready to do an open house. So because of that, the open house won't be held through spring break. It'll probably be held further out, maybe 30, 60 days kind of thing. We're waiting to hear a finalized date from that developer. So again, just wanted to close the loop on that one. And then there's a couple folks have contacted me about their taxes, their notices of assessment. And we thought it is a complicated thing with Proposal A, the Headley Act in the state of Michigan. What is taxable value? What is assessed value? What is state equalized value? All of that. We thought maybe we would do an assessing 101 also and maybe place that on the assessing page and maybe some front page links or something to that to kind of help people understand maybe some of that a little better. So that's it.
Thank you. City clerk.
The election went well last week. We saw, it was a relatively low turnout, but expected for a presidential primary. We were about 23-24%. And we've seen a lot of increase in our permanent mail-in ballot list. And then we were one of the high turnouts for the county for the early voting center. So I do appreciate all of our voters getting out there and making their voice heard.
Yeah. And thank you to you and your volunteers. Ran very smoothly. I was there anyway. Always hiccups, right? But you went through that and were able to get it certified yet?
canvassed yet. There were a couple new laws that took effect that allow for, with certain circumstances, people to fix if they had an absentee ballot. And we had one of those that they were potentially able to fix but did not. And then as well as we had a overseas ballot that they have extra time. If it's postmarked, they have an extra few days, and that was, the cutoff was today, and we did not get that either. So we were not able to start our canvass even potentially until tomorrow.
Very
So
good.
we will hear.
Well, thank you again. Firefighter Knobs, yeah, 50 years. Forgot more than a lot of people know, right? And I think that's just to be naming that facility, the training part especially, under his name. Just reminder, with the wind and everything taking place, we've been having some complaints about our parks. Make sure that trash is being picked up, please. Continue to do so. That's part of the ambiance of the city, and I want to make sure that's being taken care of on a regular basis. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilmember Karen, supported by Councilmember Cheney Huggett. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting's adjourned.
Lucky to be at the bowling center when the election worker was there. They're absolutely adorable.
Yes. Yes, they are.
You talked me into it, but I won't approve the next one.
I'm gonna approve 30% increase, so
It's,
come back to the workable plan.
so what it came to in my head was, well, yeah, but what it came to in my head was, we've got, I mean,